We got here. This is interesting. We've got quite a few hyenas here today. We've got Little Cub out at the top. We've got what looks like January standing up. And then who have we got lying down? I can't see very nicely at this stage, but I know a lot of you who are the hyena experts will be able to tell me who that is lying down. And there's Djuma at the back, up to no good as normal. And then our little cub right on the top that's just emerged out of a hole. I think it's got a bit of a fright when we arrive, but there's the little cub there. You're still looking quite skinny and bandy-legged. I'm a little bit worried about this cub at this stage. It looks as though it's not that well. Although, it looks better than the other day when we saw it. The other day when we saw it, it wasn't looking great. It was not walking nicely, but today it looks okay. Let's see when it walks. Hopefully it will be okay. But maybe some of you can try and ID the hyena lying down on its side, because I'm not 100% sure who that is. It doesn't look like a very old hyena. The ears are all sort of intact and the spots are quite bright. So definitely not a very old hyena. But I'm super glad that this is active, considering that it wasn't active about half an hour ago. It's very, very cool that we've come here and everybody's out and about. And what are you sniffing? You can see how they've got noses to the wind. The wind is coming from our southwest at the moment. And so those noses are trying to pick up all the scent that is being blown by that wind. Hello. You've got to love hyena ears. Aren't they the coolest things? They're like big satellite dishes and they just move around all over the place. And hyenas are such comical creatures. I really enjoy spending time around them. Now, so I'm going to try and just go forward a little bit so we've got more access to that little cub as well. But I don't want to chase anybody away. So let's go there. You just tell me, Seb, when you can see all of them. How's that? Is that good? Alright, cool. So there we go. Is that not one of the most scenic dens that you can imagine? There's hyenas all over the place. Big view from here. I reckon this is the penthouse suite. Listen. Is that not the cutest thing in the whole world? You are very cute. So for all of you that don't like hyenas, you can't not like them after something like that. That is the cutest thing in the world. This is a little hyena call, little hyena whoop from our tiny cub. And shame, I wonder if it's trying to call a certain individual. Maybe its mom is trying to call to see where it is and to come back to the den. Now, of course, Djuma is going to do her usual story and come and investigate what goes on. Hello, little one. You are getting very light in colour now. You're starting to lose that black day by day. In fact, the more I see you, the less black you have on you. What are you watching behind us? Is there another hyena coming? No, not that I can see. They definitely seem to be interested in something. They're sniffing heavily into this wind and they're all staring in that direction. Oh, no, lost our nerve. Not going to go that way. Is it Ribbon that's lying down there? It doesn't look like Ribbon. The ears are all okay. Not 100% sure. If anybody's got an ID on this particular hyena, it would be nice to know. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. But if you do have an ID, I would imagine you do know the hashtag already. But little morning's grooming, and it was probably a good idea just to come a little bit later in the morning. Now that the sun's out, that's why they're probably out, just to get a bit of sunshine to warm up. Although inside that mound is the best place to be in a cold day like this, because it'll be insulated, there won't be too much wind blowing. So it's the perfect place just to spend time. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering if they made this den. No, they wouldn't have made this structure themselves. The structure has been made by termites. So the termites would have use their feces, their saliva and particles of soil to construct that massive mound. And isn't it incredible that that's a termite that has built something as large as that? What then happens is you either get things like warthogs, aardvarks, pangolin, hyenas that will come and actually excavate out big furrows and big holes to be able to then have their little ones. So this has just been modified by hyenas. After the termites have died off, they then come in and take over and they utilize it for themselves. Once the hyenas move out after a while, when it gets stinky and there's too much sort of defecation and bits of meat and things all around the den, they move to another den site. You'll find then it gets used by porcupines, and you'll find even civets, genets. Now who is this? It's got lots of blood on its neck, whoever this is. They've had a... See, this hyena's got blood all over it. And it looks like a very big scar on the right of its face. So I have no idea. I don't think I've ever seen that hyena before. I might have, but it doesn't look familiar to me in any way whatsoever. But it's got blood all over the face, so I wonder if it maybe stole something from someone somewhere along the line. So I'm going to reposition ourselves slightly. Roshni, the whooping sounds with these hyenas will differ slightly, but not too much. You'll find that they get deeper for the older hyenas than it is for the younger ones, and you'll find that they typically, when they have different sounds, it's normally to do if they're excited or not. So an excited call would be that more laughing sound that they get their name, their other name from, laughing hyena. That's where they get it from, is that they'll whoop and laugh and cackle, and then sometimes they'll do that contact call, is what you heard just now when this little one was calling, is it's trying to contact its mom. And I really hope, and it's a horrible thing to think, but I really hope that that hyena that's dead north of Tambuti Dam, I really hope it's not its mother, and that it's crying out for milk. That it would just be the worst thing possible, and a horrible thing to think. So we're going to banish that out of our minds and hope that that's not the case, and that the little one just wants some food and is crying to mom for food. There we go, it's just sitting there. The rest of them have all gone round the other side. Seb, do you want me to go around the other side? No. Okay, let's try and see if we can get round. I don't know if we're going to get anywhere near those other ones, but let's try. They're kind of lying in a difficult spot there, because the little two-track that goes around the den, it actually doesn't quite go to where they currently are lying. So I'm going to have to try and kind of figure out another way. And I think originally when this two-track was made, it was made just to be able to get around the den and out of the sighting. It actually wasn't made to sort of get to where those hyenas are to view them. So we might just have to think about a different sort of structure or track that we use to get to this other side. I'm sure we can eventually make one that goes straight through. Now, Cheryl, you're wondering why the termite mounds here in Djuma are much bigger than the Masai Mara. Now, Cheryl, it's probably to do with the type of termite we get here. So we get a certain species of termite called macrotermes, and they tend to be the ones that build these big mounds. Remember that each termite species will have a different type of mound that they will build. So it's probably to do with the species of termite that we get here. I'm not sure of what species we actually see in the Masai Mara. I'm sure James will be able to tell us a little bit more. It could also be to do with the substrate that we get here. Maybe the substrate here actually bonds better with the saliva and the feces, and it causes the mound to be a lot more structurally sound, and therefore they can grow bigger ones. Could also be something to do with that. But I'm not 100% sure. Maybe James will have a better idea of why the mounds there are so small and don't get used as frequently as what ours do, or made as big as what ours do in this area. Now, this female must be ribbon, because Tima's busy suckling there, so it's got to be ribbon. And she's just had blood on her neck and kind of an odd shape that came from her right-hand side. So it is ribbon now that I can see the left-hand side of her. You can see the ribbon shape that gives her the name. So Michael, you're saying the hyena that was standing up is not January, but Gwen's daughter Heart. So that's quite cool to see, and I wonder where Gwen is then. A lot of you may not know, but Gwen is an older female and one of probably the lowest ranking member of the adult females. She is a hyena that we saw having a den around Cheetah Cutline in February, and she then has disappeared since then. We haven't seen too many signs of Gwen since then, and this is one of her previous litters that she's had, one of her young ones called Heart. So that's nice to know. Thank you for that, Michael. It's very good of you. The hyenas are difficult. We don't see them as much as we would like to, and so recognizing them is hard for us. It's not easy to be able to see who's who. I'm trying to learn them as quick as possible, but without seeing them as much as what we see the leopards or the lions, it becomes a little bit more difficult to remember who is who. And also the spot patterns, to me, with hyenas, it's often I struggle with kind of recognizing certain spot patterns like I do with leopards. I don't know why that is the case, but it is the way it is. Some people are better at it than others, and so it's always nice when you guys take it interest and let us know who they are. Ginger, you're asking if, let's say potentially that other one's mother didn't return, would any of these other females care for it? Unfortunately, the answer to that is no, they wouldn't. So these hyenas would actually just leave that cub to unfortunately die. It's the way it goes out here. They don't allow mother their cubs. They're actually very defensive of their milk. You'll find if another little cub tried to come, this hyena would chase it away and try and get rid of it. So I've never seen hyenas suckling other cubs from a different female, but you never know. Like I say, there's no rule book out here, as we've seen with that video that's going around at the moment where that wild lioness is suckling a leopard cub. You can never say never, but it's unlikely that they would suckle another cub from a different female. Isn't this cool? So little Intima must be happy. I'm sure Ribbon must have just arrived back, because the fact that Intima is now having a suckle would typically suggest that Ribbon has just gotten back and she's now having a really nice food item. And you'll see that every now and then that little cub will push up against Ribbon's stomach and almost push at the milk and try and get more flow of milk to her. Remember that it's getting to the age now where she's going to start being weaned off, and so milk is not going to be as readily available as it was when it was younger, and so it gets a bit frustrated, and then it pushes on the mother's stomach to try and force more milk to it so that it can suckle. Now, hyenas are interesting. Unlike the cats that have 4 teats, they only have the 2 teats, and that's why generally hyenas will have only 2. Sometimes they have 1, but generally only 2. Oh, see this little bird here, Seb? I wonder if it will stay. Little tawny-flanked prinias. Ah, unfortunately the one has flown. There is still one that's sitting right at the base of that tree. It's just hopping about. There it goes. So little tawny-flanked prinia that was in frame there. They unfortunately don't sit still at all, and so difficult to keep on camera, but they're easily recognizable by that tail that flicks all the time, and their small size, and then the call that they have, that little doo-doo-doo that they make. But it seems all very pleasant. I saw that the other hyenas seems to be walking off to the sort of eastern side of the mound, and maybe he's going to find somewhere to lie down there, and I'm sure the little one is still lying at the entrance where we left it just now, but shame. That little call is the cutest thing in the world, and it will be heartbreaking if that call is because it's just can't find its mom and it's battling to get food. That would sort of, I think, break many a heart, so let's hope that that's not the case. But you can see, now they're sniffing around. There's definitely something in the air that's alerting them, because they keep smelling and they keep sniffing, and I wonder if there isn't just some other animal around, or carcass or something that they're picking up. Adele and Natalie, you're asking if hyenas mate for life. No, they don't. So there will be males that will compete for dominance as well as the females. There is a matriarchal society, and generally the female's young will take over, but sometimes there is a takeover of a slightly lower ranking female over the matriarch, but the males definitely will compete. They do not form a pair that stays together for life. The males will come and go, and you'll find that there'll be males that will sort of outcompete one another to then mate with the female. So it's not always the same male throughout her life. But you can see, very alert about something. Something is exciting these hyenas. They can pick up a scent of, I don't know if maybe it's another hyena, or if potentially they're picking up a scent of another predator, but they're definitely on alert as to what's going on. It'll be interesting to see if she maybe goes up to the top of the mound to smell. Gillian, you say they always look so bewildered. I know they do. They look as though they're a bit dopey and they're not quite sure of what's going on. But don't be fooled. Hyenas are some of the most intelligent animals we have out here, and in terms of being able to problem solve, they probably are one of the best. I've watched hyenas work out how to get through all kinds of systems to stop them getting in, and they seem to be able to know what's going on. So even though they look a bit bewildered as to what's going on, they definitely are very, very, very aware of what's happening. Those big ears, sense of smell is incredible, and they are highly intelligent creatures. So they know exactly what's happening around them, even though they look so bewildered. But this wind, you can see, it doesn't only affect the prey animals. You would think that the predators wouldn't be so worried, but you can see the predators are just as affected by wind as what the prey animals are. When you get gusting wind like this, they also are picking up scent all the time. You could find that there's a male lion that walked past here at some point. Why are you squeaking, Intima? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, but Intima's running around on top. They're squeaking and not very happy, and it's normally the cry that they make when they want milk, but she seems a bit disconcerted about something, and Ribbon is obviously not looking exactly relaxed either, and is, there we go, you see it's now running this way. I'm not sure what's going on, but you can see it's, now Ribbon's up as well and watching. No, you're going to reposition to allow your little one to suckle. So there we go. It's like I say, it's the normal cry for milk. You can see it's hanging around right by the stomach, and so maybe it's just saying to Ribbon, I want to suckle and you're not lying nicely for me. No, I think all is okay. There's nothing too much that we have to worry about. Right, well, we're going to spend a little bit longer with the den because, well, it's been a quiet morning, and this is just fantastic to spend time with them, and there's lots of interaction and interesting things happening. But while we spend time here, let's go across to Mr. Henry all the way in the Masai Mara and see how he's going and whether or not the hyenas there have raised chaos with those lions at that kill. Well, I think James is fighting gremlins as much as possible that side, and so hopefully he'll win the war by this afternoon, because remember, this afternoon the Djuma crew will be taking a break, and it will be an all-Mara showdown this afternoon between everybody up that side, so it will be everyone on the Mara side coming in. And remember, that means that the safari this afternoon will start an hour earlier than normal, so just remember that it will be not at 3:30, at 3 o'clock, it will be at 2 o'clock Central African time, so whichever time that is in your time zones, you'll be able to then know what's going on. So an hour earlier is when it will start, and that's just due to the fact that the Mara is in a slightly different time zone to here in South Africa, and they have to be out of the park at a certain time, and that's why they have those restraints. Now here comes little Heart back into this area. Hello. Investigating what's going on, and also looking very curious as to what's happening. And isn't that not a beautiful hyena? It's still young, so it's got nice perfect ears, not too many scars and scrapes, bright spots. Very pretty. As far as hyenas go. So Andy, you're asking if hyenas would ever leave the clan and start their own? Well, yes, they do. So there has been split-offs of clans, and they do sometimes, if the clans get too big, particularly in the case of when you get clans that are 50, 60, sometimes there's not enough food to sustain that clan in one area, and so they'll then split off. All right, Sabi, you've got a spider web here, I'm going to get rid of that. And you'll find a situation where those hyenas will then go off and start a different den, particularly if it's a very strong female that maybe is second in line behind a matriarch, and she's just had enough of this, and she then goes off and does her own thing and starts a different clan. So it does happen, and that's how we get sort of different groupings forming. What's been really interesting, and Seb and I have been talking about it now, I was just saying, because Seb used to know these hyenas a long time ago, and he saw a lot of their younger ones, and we were saying that it's been interesting that none of the higher ranking females, we haven't found any den site for the higher ranking females, so we can't find Madam and Pretty where they are busy denning, or if they are indeed denning anywhere, and where that den site is. It seems to be all the lower ranking females that we keep finding, and evidence of that is that this hyena here is from the lowest ranking female, and from her, well, offspring from her, and so she's here. Then you've got Ribbon, who's a lower ranking individual. Scarback, who is the mother of that little cub, is also not exactly a high ranking individual within the hyena clan. So it seems to be all the lower ranking females, which is very common to see. You do see lower ranking females denning together, and then the higher ranking females denning together. And the last time the higher ranking females were seen at the den was at the previous den on Philemon's Cutline, and after that they then moved the den. So it's interesting behavior from them, and I wonder if there isn't, even though they are one clan, it's almost like a slight little split between them at the moment, where these guys spend a lot more time by themselves in this area. It would be really nice to know which hyena was actually killed on that, well, died around Timbuti Dam, because it would be able to sort of tell us what's happening as to who it is, and whether it was a male or a female, or, what part of the clan it is. It would just be interesting to know. But it seems like our clan is now going to settle for the day. I think this is now going to be them. I don't think they're going to move around too much. You might find that the little ones go inside just because it's cold on the outside and they'd rather stay nice and warm and out of the wind. But the adults, this is where they'll probably lie for the rest of the day. I'd be very surprised if they moved too much from where they are now. You can see they've kind of found their positions. Their eyes are closing, and every now and then the wind will bluster and they'll kind of lift their heads up to see what's going on, but they seem fairly settled for now. And certainly Ntima has got the best position. She's got the warmth of mom, as well as she's getting breakfast. So, and she's getting a hot breakfast, because remember that milk will be warm as well. So, a nice place for a little hyena cub to be situated at this stage. And after that, then into your mount for a nice morning nap, I would imagine. Sound good, Seb? It does sound good. Hey. Right, well, so Mason, you're asking how strong hyenas are. Well, I would imagine you mean in terms of their jaw power. It's one of those questions that people ask, but jaw power, the strongest of the land animals out here. So they have a huge amount of bite force that can come down. They can crunch through massive bones. I've seen them go through steel cages, through steel fridge doors. I've seen them bite through wooden doors. So they have huge bite force power, and it is an incredibly strong animal. That, coupled with the fact that they've got a really powerful neck and front shoulder area, so they've got very well developed muscles around their shoulders, and that allows them to carry quite big objects as well. I've seen an adult female hyena drag a fully grown impala male carcass for over 5 kilometers without stopping. So pretty insane to witness the power of one of these guys. So they're incredibly strong animals for their size. They pack a punch, and on top of that, they are very resilient. So it takes a lot to get a hyena down. There's all kinds of diseases and bacteria all over them. And they'll fight with hyenas, they'll fight with wild dogs, they'll fight with leopard and lion, and they still manage to take a serious pounding and come out on the other side just fine. So they really are powerful animals, and a lot more powerful than people give them credit for. That, coupled with their intelligence, means that there's not something that many of the predators like to tangle with, and it's why spotted hyenas have been so successful in the Kruger Park area. Right, we're going to leave our hyenas to rest and enjoy the rest of their morning and hopefully have at least a warmer morning than what we've had. And while we do that, let's go across to James, who's managed to fight off the black screen and gremlins and is hopefully back with us.